My question is actually to the Premier. She boasts about open government, transparency and accountability. But the facts compared to the spin are quite astonishing, Speaker. You just have to look at the deleted gas plant scandal. You look at the leaked budget documents we received over a year ago. Now today, her government will table a budget almost a month earlier than previously scheduled, and without the Standing Committee of Finance and Economic Affairs reporting on the extensive pre-budget consultations held throughout Ontario. They're making a mockery out of public consultation to the people who actually care about what happens in this Assembly. So can the Premier explain to me, to my colleagues, and to all of those across Ontario who spent time and valuable resources on their presentations why her government is ignoring them?
Stop the clock, please. Just before we move, I'd like to remind the Government House Leader and all members that we do not reference anyone's attendance in this place. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I should point out to the member who has this great concern about consultation that, first of all, you're always demanding on the other side that we have an earlier budget than a later budget. Now you've changed your mind on that. But I want to point out that the government has collected more than 2,700 ideas from thousands of Ontarians, 9 weeks of engaging with Ontarians in person, online, in writing and by telephone, 20 in-person consultations, 12 cities, and heard from over 700 people. For the second year in a row, launched budget talks where over 6,500 Ontarians registered as users. That information has been very valuable as we continue this process, and those who voice their opinions will have those opinions taken into full account, and you will see that they've been reflected.
Thank you. Supplementary.
I'd actually like to go back to the Premier. As much as I respect the Deputy Government House Leader, the reality is there were consultations that took place, formal consultations for this Assembly. The committee responsible for those pre-budget consultations hasn't even written their report. So you are basically and effectively acknowledging that this is a scam. And I want to go back. You talk a lot about stretch goals, aspirational budget, revenue tools, all buzzwords like openness, accountability and transparency. And the Premier may want to sit over there and laugh at the opposition. She may want to laugh and thumb her nose at the public who can no longer afford her high tax budget increases like we just saw. Let's talk about the Premier in the last elections campaigning against a gas tax and then just this week implementing one. They do one thing after they say they'll do another. It's a pattern of behaviour that I've seen over the past 13 years, winning at all costs and the public be damned. My question back to the Premier, will you admit the public interest isn't your interest anymore?
I will gently caution the member in the use of certain language that was used. I was listening carefully, and it was right on the border. And if it gets used again, I will have to call it within a withdrawal. Deputy House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I should correct the member. No one over here is laughing at those circumstances. When people have a smile on their face, it's not an assumption immediately that they're laughing at anything that's coming from the opposition. I certainly would never laugh at anything the member from Nepean has to say in this House at all. I want to say, first of all, that the Minister of Finance invited members of the committee, including both finance critics, to meet to discuss what issues had been raised at the committee. The minister also attended the Standing Committee on Finance and Economic Affairs to join them for an open discussion. That's the first appearance I can remember since 2005 before the committee. The committee also provided the government with 124 documents, and those documents and on the consultations. So the committee was monitored very carefully by the Ministry of Finance, and all of the opinions heard will be taken into consideration.